Welcome all to this PhD course. It's a PhD course on advances in intercropping and strip cropping. And I will just give a very short introduction because I'm not supposed to say much. The main speaker is Philippe Barret, who's ready in the back of the room. But what I can do is give you a few definitions, which I think are important. And what is intercropping? Intercropping is species mixture, so it's the cultivation of two or sometimes three crop species in close interaction within the field, and is mainly done to benefit from species complementarities. Species complementarity means different species do different things, and this increases yield and resource use efficiency, higher capture of resources, more light, more nitrogen, maybe more water. The course is not only on intercropping, it's also on strip cropping because strip cropping is a more recent development. It's taking off in the Netherlands, and I think Luc will tell us more about how it's taking off. And it's the cultivation of too many crop species within the field, uh, but not necessarily to increase complementarity, but to increase within field crop biodiversity and supported biota that live in the field. So insects maybe, uh, and the ecosystem services they provide. So biological control, pollination. Strip cropping may incorporate species mixture at a fine scale. That is what people do. Strip cropping aims at mechanized management. So it's a recent development in the Netherlands, and it's also happening in other countries. I know they are starting with it in Germany as well. In China, they're also widening the strips in intercropping. It's all aiming to make intercropping more manageable, but maybe not more productive, maybe not more efficient at capturing resources, not more efficient and having the ecosystem services that we like. That will be discussed. I'm in front of the slide here, sorry. But intercropping has 1,000 years of history in smallholder farming, but it is very laborious. People are spending their time in the field managing by hand. And strip cropping is really meant to solve that. Within intercropping, there is a very important distinction between intercropping where two species are simultaneous or where they are not growing at the same time. It's depicted here in this indication that two species are growing over time at the same time, simultaneous intercropping. That's convenient because you can maybe you can have a big machine to sow two crops at the same time. Maybe it's less easy to harvest two crops at the same time, but it's doable. And but relay intercropping has a long history in China, and that is a system where the species are only partially overlapping. And the principle of relay intercropping is that in the beginning, you have one species, the other species is not there. This species will grow very well. Then here, the second species comes in. It will suffer a bit from competition by the first species, but can recover later when the first species is harvested. This is a system that is used when there is a growing season that would allow you to have two crops with partial overlap, but the growing season is not long enough to grow two crops after one another. Really, intercropping is quite productive. If you calculate the land equivalent ratio, and I think I have a definition of the land equivalent ratio, it's higher for relay intercropping than for simultaneous intercropping. Uh, Now I will throw some pictures at you. This is a picture taken by Li Long. It's taken in China. This is along the Yellow River. You see the river is very muddy. Across the river is this natural area. It's a grassland, but the grass is totally dry because there's almost no rainfall in Gansu in the summer. but the crops are totally green. So the crops are irrigated. It's a very intensive system. And the farmers here, they do everything by strip intercropping. And if you get a little bit closer, you see the strip structure of those fields. Farmers do that for a reason. Here is a plot of wheat and soybean. And what you can see here is that the wheat is already almost mature. The soybean is not yet mature, so it's a relay intercropping system. So the wheat was sown earlier than the soybean. When the wheat is gone, the soybean can actually branch out and take more of the space, which immediately explains why this 50% soybean will give you more soybean than 50% of a sole soybean. It will not give you 100% of the sole soybean, maybe 70. The wheat, likewise, it could do a little better than than 50% of a whole wheat crop. Farmers can take this to the extreme, and clearly this is, well, you may call it farming, you can also call it gardening. It's very detailed here. You see the wheat almost mature, and then there's soybean and maize in the other strip. So these are the late sown species. This is the early sown species, early maturing. The wheat will soon be gone. The soybean can branch out. And there is maize here that will shape the soybean, which is a disadvantage for the soybean. It will compete, but actually there's not too much maize. So the soybean can still branch out enough to do well in the system. I'm sure the farmers do this because they know it works. And what you see is that people do the most fantastic things. So this was all these photos are from one visit to one place. Really. This shows flax. It's grown for oil. Again, soybean. Again, maize. These are very commonly grown crops in China. Maize for feed, for animal feed. Soybean also mostly for animal feed, I think. And there's an incredible diversity of systems in China. I'm not showing any pictures of Africa because I've not been very much to Africa. I know there is a lot of intercropping in Africa. It's very common. But in China, I have some knowledge. This is again wheat, soybean. This is another very interesting system. It's a maize potato. Here again, the potato is an early crop. Maize comes in a little later. The potato will be harvested relatively early. The maize will be harvested later. And this suppresses somewhat Phytophthora in potatoes, and that's a good thing. We've also tried that in the Netherlands with strip cropping potatoes and maize, and because the maize plants block the spore influx to the potato, you get a reduction in disease. But you don't get a very big reduction in disease because the tall maize plants also cause shading to the potato, and they make the potato a little bit more humid. And that is not a good thing. That promotes Phytophthora, but still it reduces Phytophthora. This is the system I saw only 2 years ago in Inner Mongolia. It's wheat and sunflower. Again, you see the wheat is not here, so you have to believe me, this is wheat. So wheat is already harvested, sunflower comes in later. Again, a relay system. And this was also an intercropping, but not recognizable when I was visiting. I just saw a sunflower field with watermelons in it, and you think, what has happened here? And what has happened here is that people were growing watermelons, and they would plant the sunflowers in the watermelon when the watermelon was getting mature, and then when they removed the watermelon, the sunflower can still make a full crop in the field. So it is really geared towards maximizing the use of the land. And I think that is very important to keep in mind. And there's an incredible diversity of systems in China. How do people measure the, the relative productive performance of intercropping? I use the word relative here because it is relative, um, because that's the best way to express it. So suppose you have a sow wheat. This is the results of one of my former PhD students. In his case, the wheat was giving you 6 tons per hectare. It was intercrop with cotton, and the cotton would give you 1125 kilogram of lint of fiber per hectare. And then the intercrop would give you 60 to 70% of the wheat yield, would give you 80% of the lint yield. So percentage-wise, the intercrop is giving you a lot more production than the sow crops. But it's difficult to say it gives you more production because how can you compare wheat yield and cotton yield? It doesn't make any sense. So the land equivalent ratio is widely used. It's an invention of 1980, and it expresses on a relative scale how good intercrops are. And this is the visualization. This is an idea of Niels Anton actually. He said, "Oh, so you can do it in this way. That you could say, if I have 1 hectare of wheat cotton intercropping, it gives me the equivalent of 0.7 hectare of the sow crop of wheat, 0.7 hectare of the sow crop of cotton. In total, I would need 1.4 hectare to get this production. So it is, well, there is a ratio in productivity of 1.4. And this is what the line equivalent ratio is across the globe. This is actually very interesting. This is from meta-analysis. So I had a student going into the literature, collect land equivalent ratio data because we wanted to know how good is intercropping really. And then you see it goes from great to awful. And in the middle, it's good, but there is an enormous amount of variability in these experiments and in the performance. So how you choose your species, how you choose your management, how you configure the intercrop is all very important. Now, if you look in strip intercrops like the ones I showed from China, there is a big difference between plants in the border rows of the strips, which usually grow. Well, if you're a wheat plant and you have an intercrop with soybean, then the soybean isn't there in the beginning. Then the wheat will grow very big. We have done this in the Netherlands with wheat maize. In the beginning, there's no maize, and so the border plants of wheat strips are very big. The inner row plants are much smaller, so you can immediately see that this is why there is so much more production in these intercrops because there is a reduction in the competition. But it shows immediately that the border rows are very important. And that brings me to strip cropping. Strip cropping is this new invention to bring diversity into the field. And I think the good thing really is that this is manageable for farmers. So farmers in the Netherlands do this, so they are interested in it. But what do you get from strip cropping? And this we're still finding out. So if you have the narrowest strip width that people do strip cropping is 3 meter with machinery of 3 meter wide. You have here one border row, you have here another border row, the rest is inner rows. So your intercropping advantage will be less than uh, of narrower strips, but your management will be more efficient. So there is trade-off there. You can also grow full mixtures. Full mixtures are common across Europe. For instance, wheat pea, and such mixtures are often for animal feed on poor soils where you need a legume to support the cereal, and they're harvested in one go. This is actually very close to my home in Wageningen. It is I don't know if you can see it, but it has oat and it has lupin. And I suppose actually that they will separate the grains after harvest because the lupin is a quite valuable crop. They can uh, they can use it for plant-based wheat substitution, and it's very pretty and it's good for the soil. So, uh, well, this is just give you a flavor of what intercropping looks like, what intercropping is, why we have both intercropping and strip cropping in this course. Because intercropping is good, but intercropping needs innovation, and innovation is happening. What this course covers is species interactions drive advantages. So we look at what those species interactions are, and we will give you insight in factors driving farmers to use or not use intercropping or strip cropping. So Philip will talk about that momentarily. And there are innovations in intercropping technology and their effects on performance, and Li Long will do that.